So we are in the dirtiest part of my shop right now, and I'm about to do some pressure casting on the Surreal Dice Tower. So I've got the piece broken up into 3 separate molds. So this, I believe, this is the top of the tower. This is the middle of the tower, and I have the bottom down here inside of my pressure pot. Now what I've done is that the mold is broken up into 3 pieces, and this is all rubber band back together. And these are my vents here that come up. So when I pour the material, I use one of these little funnels here, and then when I funnel in, I leave it in there, and then all the air gets forced out of these holes. These are just swizzle sticks like you use for coffee. That's what I use for my vents, so I can stick them in there later. It's really handy dandy. It doesn't make a big mess, and if you have air bubbles that come through the mold, they'll come out, but you won't lose all your material, so there'll still be material in here. So usually what I do is I pack this thing. And because I only have 2 funnels that fit this size, I'm only gonna be able to do 2 molds at a time. Or yeah, normally I would do the 3rd one, but I can't find another funnel, unfortunately. Well, maybe I can try this one. Let's try this one. Let's see on the big one. No, I can't get that one in. I think I can do, yeah, that one just barely fits because the rubber's softer. Alright, so now I got 3. Cool. So, let me make sure I make, and these are the molds, or I have the bottom slightly slanted. That's so that the material vents easier. This is a tight fit. Okay, so those are going to be my target spots, and I got another little mold in the back there. Those are some stairs that get glued on the inside. So that's the entire dice tower in there. So now we're going to go back to the resin, and I need a bigger container. So this is where I keep my resin, and this is the B side, the resin part side. It always so the resin that I use is an AB material. So my garage is very small, so I don't have a ton of space. Back on there. So this is either the B or C. I don't know which side it is. I always mix the resin a little bit before I pull it out, and you want to mix this in equal parts. This is called Siltec resin. It's an amber colored resin that's semi-translucent. So these are all my tints right here. And for the dice tower, I'm using something I call my chocolate mix. Oops. Let's see if I can get it out. So this is I think this is the A side, this is the B side. Usually the one that's more clear is the one that you want to mix your tint into. So here's my, it's just brown tint, and I usually do probably enough. And I keep these little swizzle sticks around, I just keep them with it. So there's the brown tint. And then I like to do also just a little bit of black. This is so messy. Make sure you wear gloves if you do anything like this. So these are also from Silpack, these tints that I buy. And I'll just do a very small amount of this, just 1 drop. I don't want it too dark. You just want it. This is going to be the base color of the Surreal Dice Tower. So now that I have that in there, I need to get a mixing stick, and of course, oh, here we go. So yeah, look, just touching the tints, how dirty I got. Dirty jobs. All right, so I mix this up and make sure that both of these are all, because it's kind of marbly right there. I want to make sure it's all nice and mixed in. Great timing on the air compressor. Couldn't be better. Okay, so I found a resin cup. I tend to be cheap and I recycle, so this has seen some chocolate resin already. So I'm just going to pour my brown in there. This is the A side, or the B side. I always get it mixed up. But the one side, this is the resin side. The other the other side is the hardener side. So the resin side is the side that you mix in your coloring. So get it all in there. And now I'm going to mix in. Now this is once I mix this together, I have 120 seconds if I'm lucky. I probably get more like 90 seconds before it gets off. So I got to get this stuff in the molds pretty quick. And I also have to close that container and fill it with pressurized air to 60 pounds of pressure. So I'm going to move really fast, hopefully, and I won't screw it up.
Lucia won't let me inside my room.
Okay, you got to go, buddy. We're in the middle of filming, okay? All right, so I'm going to mix this. Got to keep the little guys away. And if you're doing a lot of this stuff, you want to wear a respirator, but because I'm filming, I'm not. But normally I would be. So this is try not to breathe it. I use this right here. This is called channing, where you basically use your mixing stick to pour it in there. So I'm gonna get the material in there until and that's probably full right there. All right. So mold number 2. This is the bigger one. This is the base. And I use this pressure pot here. This helps to get all of the air bubbles squeezed down to very, very small. Okay, looks like I got just enough. I don't have enough to do the stairs. So I'm going to push this a little bit to try to burp it a little and get any extra air out of there. Looks pretty good. So now I take my gloves off because I don't want to get resin on top of my container. I put this heavy lid on and then I close these little valves. Watch out for that. So these have to be tightened down. So these are just very lightly hand tightened, and then I start to do all the tightening. Then to really get it tight, I have this. It's just a piece of pipe. I go through. I just use a little bit of leverage and tighten it the rest of the way. So this, you do not want this coming up when you've got air in there, or the air will leak out and you won't have any pressure. So these should be pretty good. I can't tighten it anymore. So I'm going to close this valve. This locks off the air that's already in there, and then I'm going to release this valve and the air will go inside. So basically I'm making a bomb. That's my compressor going off to refill the air. But once this gets to 60 or 70, that's the pressure that we want. Now if I were to shoot this while the pressure was in there, this thing would probably explode and kill me. Maybe, I don't know. So my pressure gauge isn't the best. It kind of got whacked, so I gotta knock it around to make sure I'm getting a good reading. Now it's almost to 70. I'm gonna lock it off, and that should be good. And that is pressure casting the dice tower. So now that I've got the resin in there, this type of resin, all resins are different, but this type of resin that I'm using from Silpak generally takes about probably 30-40 minutes, an hour to cure, and then I usually let it sit overnight because it's kind of rubbery. So I like to give it a full 24 hours. So I will leave this in there until tomorrow, and then I'll go in and I'll open the molds and pull them out. Okay, so it's been about 24 hours, and we are ready to demold our dice tower. So first thing I'm going to do is release the air valve on this. Now there's a couple ways you could do this. You could just release it a little and let the air just seep out, but I'm impatient, so I wear these. So it's pretty loud. I don't know how many decibels, but it could definitely damage your ears. So if you're gonna, you have a tank like this, or even a small one, if you release that valve while you don't have any ear protection, you could definitely damage your ears. So here we go. Obviously, if you don't release that valve before you start taking the cap off, you could have a big problem. All right, so You can get these tanks off of like Craigslist or eBay. Used. That's where I got this one. Okay, so there it is, all set up. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So the way I pull these off is I just twist, and then I just snap them off, and then I pop this out later with a dowel rod and a hammer. There we go, there's that one. It looks like they came out pretty good. And these just pull right off. So you can see the material came up. It came up and then it sank back down once I pressurized it. So having the little extra lead helps that when you pressurize it. Because when you pressurize, you're squeezing the air bubbles down. So then you make more space in the mold. So you got to allow for extra resin to come up and then go back in. Oh, that one's really long. And I just put these here. See this big boy. Yeah, that one's going to take some doing. These don't want to come out. Alright, well, I'll demold this one first. This one's easy. This is the top. So this is that's the pour spout right there. And then there's also this piece down here. So this is what creates the cavity. So this one takes a little bit of effort to get it out. So it's hollow. And then this. There we go, there's a piece. This is a little more translucent than I want it, but it's okay, it'll still work. Well, let's do this one. I love opening these things because for the most part I've done this enough to where I know what I'm doing on the mold. It usually takes 1 or 2 tries to get it right. Like the first couple, might not come out so well because you're still learning how the mold works. Each mold is different that I make in terms of how it pours, so there's always a little bit of a learning curve. So these are my little cavities in here. Yeah, this looks pretty good. And if you do a lot of molds, you always want to make sure, like once you've demolded something, you put the mold back together pretty soon, because they can warp. Meaning that if you leave them out and just kind of laying around, it's not so good. I've seen people leave molds, especially the silicone ones, out, not stored properly, and you can ruin a mold that way. This one is the core. Alright, so you can see the stairs inside there. And never rush. Let it naturally separate. If you try to rush this process, you can tear chunks out of your molds. That one turned out pretty nice. This one's even got a little film in here, so I'll have to trim that out. So all this will be it. And so now after this, I'm gonna have to go in and with a blade and just kind of trim all this out a little bit. It's not too bad. Usually if you get this kind of this film in here, that means you got a pretty good pour because it got everywhere. And it looks like this one doesn't have any air bubbles, just a few in there. Okay, so we're pulling this. This one's a little tricky to get out. So the back is easy to get off, but this inside part is a little difficult. This is a good cast though. Sometimes I was getting air bubbles in the corners, but this one looks like it caught everything. It's just a little more translucent than I want it to be. I should have put just a little more brown pigment in the mix. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get up. The way you do this one, you have to kind of Break it like a brick. Alright, there we go. And then these I just pop off like this. Okay, so still trying to get this sucker out. This one's a little tricky. This one isn't the best mold for this piece. I got kind of lazy, so I used a screwdriver to help me loosen it up. See, I'm just trying to get it away from the other side. And my wife was asking me a question on why the mold is all jagged. So when I cut a mold, I use a tool similar to this with a longer one, and I purposely do what's called a waggle cut, where I actually do this and waggle it when I cut it. That way you get all these nice little edges here, so that when you put the mold back together, it keys up really nicely. If you just do a straight cut, it won't key up as nice. Okay, so let's try to get this side. Okay, I loosen that. So I'm really gentle with the screwdriver. I don't want to damage the sculpture. I've actually broken these pulling them out before, so gotta move slow. Never be in too much of a hurry. Watch, it'll break on me because I'm trying to do it on camera. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, that part's out. There we go. And there's the bottom portion. Pretty good casting overall, I'm happy. So all I got to do is trim this. And this inside I've changed a little bit, so this is old now. I've actually made it more of a slope. That's what it's going to be in production, because they were getting caught up in there. So I'm going to change that for our little sample demo. All right, there we go.